Hello again. Today I'd like to share a little bit of decoupage in my art journal. I also have a little secret to share with you, and if you wait till the end of the video, I also have a little accessory that can accompany an art journal. Yes, I'm quite excited to share it with you, so do stay to the end of the video to see what that's all about. So before we get started and talk a little bit about decoupage, I want to share something with you that you might find quite amusing. Now, a little while ago, I made a video about the imperfect being the perfect and sharing my thoughts about art journaling and not worrying too much about things not looking 100% and just being quite relaxed about it really, and that it is okay to make mistakes in our art journal. And in that spirit, I have made a big mistake in my art journal. Obviously, in the scale of our lives, the earth, etc., it is not even worth batting an eyelid about, but it is quite amusing, so let me share. So this is the art journal, this is the front cover, and we have a number of little spreads. I did originally start the journal by merging an old journal into this one, and I loved that because it really got me motivated and got me going. I then wanted to tell an old Devon folk tale called The Tulip Bed, so hence that page. I then jumped around a little bit, not sure why, but we went to an ancient wood called Wisman's Wood, and I created this mythical character called Wisty, this magic pony called Wisty, and I cut out the shape and collaged that in. I like doing that, I love cutting out shapes. And then following that, I went looking for snowdrops and we did the front cover. We then went back up to Dartmoor to see the wild ponies, and then inspired by all the lovely creamy yellow primroses that were popping up left, right and centre, especially in the shady woods, I recycled an old painting I had of some primroses that I'd done and repurposed them into the picture. It then took us up to another ancient wood which also had a folklore attached to it. Legend has it that it's supposed to be the trysting place for pixies. Yes, trysting place means meeting place, so definitely a magical wood with a very fast moving river and lots of streams running through it. I then did just a kind of random spread with some pressed flowers. It wasn't actually a spring spread, it was some old summer flowers that I'd had in the flower press from last year, and I wanted to compare my mother's old birthday book from 1941 and the way they'd pressed the flowers into the book to my version of it. I tried to copy their little strips of brown paper that they'd used to paste in their flowers into the book. That was fun, and I was also recycling some tea bags and making some pockets. Then we went looking for spring violets, and I was very excited to see the first violets popping out into the very shady woods. Yes, they were hiding, but they were a little bit more showy in the hedgerows and hedgebanks where the sun was shining on them a little bit more. And then the cherry on the cake was definitely going up towards the tors a little bit higher and hearing my first skylark this year. What a beautiful song that bird has. And I decided to collage the little bird into the page and also made sure that the bird had a little cosy nest to lay the eggs in. So this spread inspired me. It inspired me no end, because while I was looking for these violets, there were so many other lovely wild flowers popping up everywhere. And so I thought, why don't I do some decoupage just to bring that joy into the book, and also choose a colour that I hadn't used really before too much, and that is a nice bright vivid yellow, well maybe a creamy yellow like those primroses. So I was getting very excited, got going, painted the background, and then started to decoupage with a napkin, a serviette that I had, and I'll show you how I did that in a minute. But yeah, this is the little secret, although it's no longer a secret because I'm going to share it with you. Guess what I did? Yeah, I did not notice that my journal was upside down, and I pasted it in upside down, and I only realised when I had got halfway through, by which time I was so into it I thought, you know what, the imperfect is the perfect. It has to be, especially in our art journals. Now, if you haven't actually started and done too much, then it probably doesn't matter, because if you just painted the background, you could repurpose it for something else, obviously. Or if you had made some marks on the page, you could always stick the two pages together. But I thought, no, I've done all of that decoupage upside down, and it's absolutely fine. So there it is. I'm going to show you how I did it, but hopefully you will check that you've got it the right way up. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so I'm going to show you how I did that now. I did this yesterday, so I had a very pleasant time doing that. And I've got a little technique that I use now, which I'd like to share with you because it definitely makes it much easier. I did do some decoupage on a bag. The last time I did this was about just over a year ago. And although it dried quite well, it did dry a little bit wrinkly. So I've done a little bit of research since then and found a technique that really helps eliminate those wrinkles. So that makes a big difference. And it definitely works because they've gone on beautifully flat. So all ready for my next project. So I'm going to do something with this, but just for today, I want to share how I got to this point. And then if you can keep watching the video, I have a little surprise at the end, because I'm also in the process of making an accessory for the journal, which I think is going to be quite fun. So I'd like to share that with you as well. Anyway, yes, upside down journaling. It's all part of the process, isn't it? I'll see you in a bit. Hello. I'm going to do a little bit of decoupage today. I thought it would be a really lovely way to celebrate just the amount of flowers that are popping up everywhere at the moment. Now we're fully into spring. Now the last spread we did was the violets and the skylark, the little nest and the eggs inside. I really enjoyed that project. So when we were looking for those violets up on Dartmoor, we saw so many other flowers there, daffodils obviously still blooming, celandine, many other lovely wildflowers up there. So I thought, in celebration of that, I thought I would do something a little different today. So let's get our next clean page. And I have got myself a really lovely napkin or serviette. Isn't that lovely? That really does remind us, I think, of spring. So I thought we'd try and get that in the book, but without the wrinkles. I have tried this before, and in previous times things have been a little bit wrinkled, but not to be daunted. I have seen a technique that I'm going to try today and see if that's effective. So I think I'm going to do a double spread, and before we start I am going to paint some background in. So let's this time do a nice yellow colour, lemony colour. I'm just going to do a little wash with my paints, and as quite often I do, I'm just going to use my little emulsion brush. Okay, so got our napkin here, and I've got to decide how I want to incorporate it into the lemon background that I've painted there. So in the past with this, I haven't always been entirely successful. It has been a little bit wrinkly. So I'm hoping it's going to be better today because I've got a new technique to try out, and I'm hoping that will work. So I'm trying to imagine how I want this to be arranged, and I've got a couple of choices. I could just cut out a square perhaps, but I think I've got a couple of these napkins and I thought I'd just cut out the pieces and arrange them around the edges. So using my scissors, I'm just going to cut around this little corner here. So the best thing to do is really try and get rid of as much of the white background as possible. That really does help. So we'll cut around that beautiful butterfly there. So once I've cut the shape out that I need, I'm going to separate the layers. This is sometimes easier said than done. Very gentle. okay, and then we've just got that very fragile piece there. So the next thing I need to do is to get a little bit of plastic, and I always try and recycle plastic bags. We do have them, don't we? It's very difficult to buy things without them. Mostly I try, but if I can, especially in the art projects, I definitely try and use something that's come off something else. So this is the little one we're going to use, and I'm just going to pull off, use a little bit of water, just very gently tease a little bit off, and you can do as much of that as you would like. You can just be a bit delicate with this. I'm going to put it upside down like that, and then I'm just going to apply a little bit of water to the back. And you do want it to be fairly wet, fairly well soaked. So the next thing is to use a little bit of Mod Podge. And when we've done that, what we're going to do is you're going to turn that over. Let's push that over here a bit more. I think I want it there, very close to the bottom, I think. And if you just do that very gently and lift off really easily, no wrinkles, little butterfly. Repeat the process. Put the coloured side down, the bit that you want to show in your journal. Make sure it's very wet. Decide where you're going to put it. I'll pop it up there in that corner. Little tiny bit of Mod Podge, and then again being very careful because it might well slip off. Pop it there, tease it out. It will stick down really nicely. I'm going to carry on and really enjoy this process. I'll speed you up a little bit. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that, and it also gave you some tips and ideas about how to decoupage into your journal without those frustrating little wrinkles that you can sometimes get. Yes, I think it is quite a good technique, so it certainly improved my attempts at it. So now we come to the little bit that I mentioned about an accessory, and thank you for staying. If you've stayed this long, I really appreciate it. So what I've decided to do is make something practical. The book bag was quite practical. It's great because it keeps everything off and keeps everything self-contained in there. Now, the wool that I got, the yarns that I got for this bag were mostly from a charity shop, and I've still got masses of those yarns left. So, not wanting to waste anything, I've decided that I'm going to knit myself a hat using the same wools that are left over and weaving in some of those lovely colours like the purple for the violets and the lovely soft brown there for the skylark. And I'm going to keep it very simple. It's probably going to be a beret. It might even be a tam o' shanter. So yes, I could do a tam o' shanter with a pom-pom bobble at the top, something like that, yes. So, but I do love hats and I love berets and I wear them quite a lot. So I know it will be useful and I know it will be used. You know, often, even when it's summer in the UK, we can have some chilly days, especially in the open, exposed places. So a hat's always going to come in useful, isn't it? And I think it could enrich the experience of the pages in the journal, because whatever colour is going to be dominant, and in the decoupage today that I've shown you, you've got that lovely creamy yellow. So I'm guessing that I need to find something in my yarn box that is similar to that colour if I can. I really don't want to go out and buy anything. If I have to, I will, but hopefully I'll have something. So that's the accessory I wanted to share. So if you see my knitting coming out in the future videos, then you'll know what it's all about. I'm putting another couple of layers in. Yes, just to enrich that experience and use up some old wool. It's always good to use things up, isn't it, if we can. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for coming along. I enjoyed your company very much. Have a good and safe week, and I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.